good afternoon. My name is Donna Feazell, and I'm your host of The Edge on IC Radio, your source for news and entertainment. You can find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications and Abundance Television, which is found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. We appreciate you listening to us every day, Monday through Friday, as we get to learn lots of new things together. You can also send an email to donna@donnasedge.com if you would like some particular topics for me to discuss. Here's one that was sent by Angie. It's how to focus when reading 15 proven techniques. And Angie, I'm really glad you sent this one. Wow, we have so much going on in this world right now. So many things going on. This tries to take your attention. That tries to take your attention. It's just, you're constantly, and you got the smarts. I mean, you can really do these things. It could be family issues. It could be just a number of things, and it's sapping your production away from you. Well, let's talk about this together, because we all go through this. This is kind of a hard time, and a lot of us are having a hard time focusing, and that's focusing on whatever you're doing right at this very moment. So let's go ahead and talk about it. This is the website, magneticmemorymethod.com. magneticmemorymethod.com. So let's go ahead and dig just a little bit. Now, if you can't focus on reading, here's why you should feel hopeful that you can increase your attention quickly. I mean, do you ever do that? Sometimes you got a book, you know it's going to be really good, and you start reading it, and all of a sudden it's just like, I don't know, you kind of get into a time warp. So this is what the author says. See, I nearly dropped out of grad school in 2003 because I could barely focus on a sentence. My looming exams made the stress even worse, leading to a vicious cycle that degraded my concentration even further. But I knew that I just had to solve the problem. Failure simply wasn't an option. Although I didn't discover all that I'm about to share with you overnight. One concentration tip in particular made all the difference in the world, and we're going to dig and we're going to find out what this is. I was able to stay in school, get my PhD, get a major research grant, and travel the world, all because of the information you'll read on this page. But be warned, a lot of what I have to share puts a different spin on some of the reading comprehension and focus techniques you've encountered before. So if you're ready to discover how to stay focused while reading from someone who read a ton and turns the information into knowledge for others each and every day, let's go ahead and get started. I'm really glad to find this. Okay, here's what he goes on to say. How to focus on reading, the 15 things you need to know. Now, as you go through this list, it's important to understand that there's no special order here. Okay, each and every tip is equally useful, but you don't have to put them all into use overnight. So we can gradually dig into this. Some of them are useful only for certain kind of books. Like, frankly, there is no one-size-fits-all cookie-cutter method for reading with greater focus. So if you can't focus on reading, you're going to love how easy it is to improve. Now here's number one. Read more, more often. Read more, more often. Okay, the simplest way to improve your focus is to simply read more and read more often. Read as many different types of information as you can from many different types of authors. This tactic is incredibly important because one big reason people struggle to focus while reading comes down to weak reading muscles. I get it. I really do get this. So let's face it, humans were not born to read. Evolution has yet to imprint the alphabet directly into our DNA. Reading is a skill we have to learn. And once we have the basics down, we can keep the mental muscles involved in reading strong. Number two, and this is really important, be patient with authors. This is what he means by that. People that can't focus often blame their own self. They think they may be lacking focus when actually the author's not writing in a way that demands focus. Worse, some readers may consider themselves less intelligent than they actually are. In reality, the book is not as well written as it could be. For example, one of the students in the Magnetic Memory Method Masterclass came to me recently for help with his reading comprehension. When I asked for an example of what my student was struggling with, he said he couldn't concentrate on or remember anything from One Nation Under God by James Moore. Now, this book, which is about the history of prayer in America, is well written in terms of clean prose, but the prose is not particularly clear, and it's logically inconsistent. No wonder my student couldn't remember anything he was reading. Take one example. Just imagine the opening paragraph. It will help you to understand my next tip. Keep in mind that we're going to concentrate and extend more our patience with his writing. So here's what it says. Nothing in human experience compares to prayer. By any objective measure, it has remained one of the most critical and indisputable influences in the course of American history and on the lives of individual Americans. Without prayer, the political, cultural, religious, social, and even economic and military annals of the nation would have been far different from what they are today. Furthermore, given the influence that the United States has wielded around the world for so many generations, even global history would have taken a far different path in the absence of American prayer. I'm not having a hard time understanding that. But I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. So maybe that's why. And this is some of the things that we've been trained for anyway. Okay, number 2, we just mentioned that one. Number 3, bring the engagement. Bring it on. Moore says in this book that nothing in human experience compares to prayer. A sentence like this is hard to comprehend for a few reasons. It's not for me. But first, what does the author mean by prayer and human experience? And what exactly does the word compare mean in this context? In reality, prayer compares to all kinds of things, such as confession with a priest or your preacher, and the secular equivalent of talking to a psychoanalyst. Using mantras compares to prayer, as does wishful thinking or other forms of self-talk. I don't do the self-talk thing. That doesn't do it for me, see. Prayer would work better for me. Then the author uses an empty cliche phrase like, by any objective measure, but nowhere does the author list a single objective measure. It's because you haven't read the whole thing. So that's another thing. We've talked about sound bites. You know, the news media will throw out a sound bite instead of an entire selection of what someone running for office is saying. That just never works. Sound bites don't work. You got to read the whole book. Another thing is I hear a lot of people say, a minister will say, read the 23rd Psalm, which is really great, but he may just say read one verse. Read verse 2 of the 23rd Psalm. The whole thing is going to make sense when you read the entire verse of the 23rd Psalm. Okay, now, the absence, wherefore does not author have a single objective measure? This absence means that the reader really has nothing to latch on to. You got to keep going. You got to keep reading. In fact, it's not until page 3 of the book that Moore provides his reader with a concrete example to experience. Something very important to have during any learning cycle. The buried image Moore finally gives involves an actual event. That's what people want to hear. They want to hear real stories from real people. A number of people getting together in Yankee Stadium to prayer after the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center. As I explained to my student, the problem isn't with the focus skills my student was bringing to the table. It's with the fact that the author wrote in a vague abstraction. The book would have been a lot better with an introduction like this. Now, this is this guy's idea, okay? So let's read it and just, it never hurts to check it out. Imagine you're in Yankee Stadium with a group of people gathered in prayer. Your heart is flooded with convicting emotions, ranging from anger, rage, and the need for revenge, and feeling of patriotism for your country. Prayer helps you navigate those tough emotions, and that's just one reason why prayer holds on so much value compared to some of the other ways you could deal with the range of confusing feelings you might experience after such a tragic event as 9/11. This volunteer rewriting of the text brings the engagement. It draws you in. and it makes it much more understanding. But I had to do that as the reader of the book for the author through a kind real-time translation. I changed the meaning, the vague into the concrete and specific. Now I know this might be easier for me because I have lots of practice in reading multiple kinds of literature daily. I've also written lots of books, so still, in order to maintain focus on confusing writing, this type of translation is what has helped me in the most. And it's what I suggest you do as a reader when books fail to stimulate you or harness your attention. And let's read what the author says and then translate it into something more engaging. So, and I wanted to mention this. A lot of times it's what you're interested in, okay, at the time. Okay, so we'll just bring art into the picture. So my form of art is actually making jewelry. I love to paint. I like anything. Making garden art is just a passion of mine. Now, I would say 12 years ago, when I didn't have time to do this, or maybe even 20 years ago when I was working in the corporate world, I would have been reading these books and it would have been so vague to me because I really didn't have the interest in it, nor did I have the time. I was reading more things like people who lived in the Depression. Those books at that particular time in my life were more important to me. People who were business people who were living in the deep depression and how they made it work, how they made their lives a success. That's the kind of reading I wanted to do then. So now the reading I want to know different techniques. I want to know how to make something work. I want to know why something works the way it does. I have different tools here in my studio. And right now, those are the things that are important to me. I like to study a little bit on psychology. I want to understand you. I want to understand you as a watcher and as a listener, as an audience, and things you like. That's why before every single show, I tell you about my email address. And because I want to get out there, I want to put out there what you want to watch and what you want to listen to, what you want to learn. And so, I mean, that's the whole idea. It can be an interest to me, but it may not be an interest to you. So you are the boss of the show. You tell me what to do. So again, going ahead and send in just anything that you would like to see, like this article right here. This was brought to us by a listener, and I really think it's pretty good. Let's go into a commercial break. We'll return in just a few minutes. We're going to talk about number 4, interrogate your reading with suspicion and faith. We'll be right back. The Hatter Cafe and Country Inn is nestled in the northeast corner of Alabama the Beautiful in the delightful town of Mentone. We're located on top of scenic Lookout Mountain near Little River and DeSoto State Park and located only 5 minutes from shopping and restaurants. There is also a nearby community walking path and golf course. We welcome everyone through the doors and we are committed to outstanding service for all guests. At the Hatter Cafe and Country Inn, we invite people from all walks of life to come and get away from it all, enjoy the open spaces, treetop views, fresh, clean air, and experience Southern hospitality at its finest. We look forward to hosting you. To reserve a special event, or if you would love a special getaway at the Country Inn, you can call us at 256-634-2018.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer
yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
The only place I buy my beef is Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama. Their cattle is born and raised on their ranch, grass and grain fed, and you can feel confident when you serve your family and friends because their beef is all natural and no antibiotics or hormones are added. You can buy whole beef or perhaps go in with family or friends and buy half. Their customer service is number one as they take care of the delivery to their local processor and can deliver to your home for a small added fee. They also offer herd replacement heifers. I always call Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama for my beef specialty recipes and cookouts, and you can too. Food shortages are increasing, so buy local by calling 256-523-6462. That's 256-523-6462.
Wow, it's so soft and smooth.
It's cool to the touch. How did you do that?
Well, we took MyPillow's patented fill and combined it with this new technology that we didn't have back then when I invented MyPillow to bring you the best pillow in history, MyPillow 2.0. Because of all of you, MyPillow 2.0 has been a huge success, and now we're bringing you our best-selling Go Anywhere MyPillows with the same temperature-regulating technology. Made with my patented adjustable fill and brand new cooling fabric, they're truly the next generation of MyPillow. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save over 60% on our MyPillow 2.0 4-pack special. You'll get 2 MyPillows and 2 Go Anywhere MyPillows, regular $259.92, now only $99.98. King size just $10 more. This is a limited time offer, so please order now.
Donna's Designs offers a line of handmade memorial, wedding, and keepsake jewelry that launched back in 1970. I'm a self-trained jewelry designer, and I will work closely with you to create unique designs you can love and treasure for years to come. Whether that be flowers that were used in a funeral arrangement or stones you found on the beach at a memorable trip, call me at 256-659-4319, and let's think of the possibilities.
You have been at this for 12 years. Why are you doing it? Because God's children are not for sale.
Rated PG-13.
Okay, we're back from commercial break. My name is Donna, and I am your host of The Edge on IC Radio, your source for news and entertainment. You can also find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications and Abundant Television, which is found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Again, thank you so much for watching. I sure do appreciate it, and I do listen to you. So when you send information, a show you would love, a topic you would love for me to talk about, send it to Donna at donnasedge.com. I'll be sure to get it out there for you. Number 4, interrogate your reading with suspicion and faith. So we just talked about translating the vague writing into specific ideas. We're trying to learn how to comprehend on reading and concepts to make this process more active and interesting. But there's a subroutine going on that deserves its own attention. It's based on one of the favorite reading tactics I learned in university, and it's the thought of suspicion. What's that about? There's a lot of political nonsense in that style of reading that I have completely abandoned, but the core idea is that you read with skepticism. I like that. I've already demonstrated this by looking at the first sentence of One Nation Under God. This interrogation exposed that the author is being a little bit lazy with his wording and meaning. Now, this is his opinion. And reading this way allowed me to dig deeper. See, I get what he's saying. And think about what he really means once the generationals are cleared away. To do this, it's important to balance the suspicion part with faith. I've always read in the faith that author has good intentions and wants to communicate these key points. Now, this circles back to being patient with the author, which in case this book required a lot of patience. And again, that was his opinion. I didn't have that problem. But now I do have that problem with some other books. You know, so it just doesn't hit me the right way. Okay, number 5, concept walk, the index. One of the reasons this author feels, and I tend to agree, we lose focus from authors is drowning us in references. The problem lessens the more you read because you'll catch the references and have ready-to-go images and ideas in your mind. But until that starts to happen, you'll want to get to the habit of regularly checking the index. For example, if an author mentions a philosopher, check the index and look at all the pages this person is mentioned on. If they seem like they're going to be important, make time to read up about this individual. That way, when you reach those passages again, you won't lose focus. You'll have a little more info there. You'll have a cognitive map to help you make a connection. Now, this is kind of like interrupting yourself, but done well. This kind of self-distraction is like interleaving a key strategy when you want to remember what you're reading. It's the external distractions we need to worry about. Here are a few key ways you can do that. Number 6, delete the distractions. There's nothing worse than having internal forces interrupt your reading. Today, for example, I was one of my favorite reading spots when it started to rain. Suddenly, a bunch of people were huddling with me under the umbrella over the picnic table. No problem. I just left. I have nearly a dozen other places already charted out where I can read. But how often do we try to push through distractions instead of turning them off? There are many simple ways to eliminate distractions while you are reading. Okay, this is a good one right here. Schedule your reading time. I think that's very important. Alert others you're not to be disturbed during this time. Turn off the phone or all notifications if reading on a device, because if your phone, and mine constantly goes off. Folks want to be on the birthday club, the anniversary club, date night club, and folks are sending me information about different things and analysis and things like that. So I keep mine on quite a bit. But when I'm concentrating on something, when I took the Auburn classes recently, I would turn my phone off because I did not need the distraction. So, when you're taking courses like that, you really need to find a time, a place, and let it be an ongoing time in an ongoing place. You're turning yourself into a habit when you do that. Now, close all tabs or open a new browser window and make it a full screen. It's hard to concentrate when you're looking at a tiny, tiny little screen. I prefer to do it on my computer. Okay, take notes with a pen and paper so you don't have to close tabs or screens. Use notes to look up things later if you prefer to keep your reading flow going. Do choose quiet places in low traffic areas. Have a plan for where else you can go if something changes. Have targets for how much you're going to read. Okay? Now let's talk a little bit more about the idea of having targets and how they can help you focus. Okay, number 7 is targets and the pinch technique. Okay, I read a ton each year, but it's rarely random. I read more because when I pick specific targets and fulfill them. For example, when I'm interested in a particular topic, I'll pick 3 to 5 books in that area and plan to have them read within 4 to 6 weeks. This is a huge strategy for people who want to read faster. Like right now, I'm on a Ben Carson thing. Okay, I'm reading everything I can get my hands on right here about Ben Carson. So I'll have to tell you one thing that really intrigued me. The reason I really wanted to read this is I was just doing a little bit of research, and I saw where he talked about his mother. His mother was married when she was 14 years old, very naive, found out her pastor husband was having an affairs. And so there's an article on this right here, and I believe her name was Sonia Carson. I'm not so sure, had it not been for her perceiving her kids to be smarter than they thought they were. She wanted her kids to be smarter than her. She wanted her kids to be very successful in anything they did, and she constantly told them they were. She told them they had a purpose in life. And the big reason I got this book was to find out how she did that. Because even though my son's in his 40s, I still feel like I need to be his cheerleader. I feel like I need to be cheering him on about things. This also helps me with my spouse, with my husband. Something he's working on, it can help me to help him as well. Everybody needs encouragement, right? The family especially needs it. And my daughter-in-law, I like to tell her. Okay, so here's what he says about that. I read a ton each year. For example, when I'm interested in a particular topic, just like I am with this guy right here. The huge strategy is for people who want to read faster, and I do. Boy, when I dig in, I start reading, it's like I can't put it down. I'm just like all over it. That's what I call a micro target. So then there are micro targets, literally figuring out how much I plan to read in a given day. Usually I try to cover 3 chapters, if not more. Now, since all our minds are fried from the internet, specifically thanks to digital amnesia, I have found something strange. Chapters that used to seem very short now seem incredibly long. Even my attention span and focus have shortened. I think that's what's happened to a lot of us. To combat that, I started to count the exact number of pages in a chapter, and then I pinch the entire chapter while I'm reading. That way the feel of making progress keeps me focused more than if I try thinking about how many more pages are left in that chapter or that section. Because when you're thinking about that, you've just lost your focus, right? Sure, I know it sounds kind of silly, but I've been doing it for years, and it helps me maintain my focus a ton. Number 8, take a picture walk. Barbara Oakley from Learning How to Learn talks about the picture walk technique in the book version that has the world famous course. Taking a picture walk is a bit like pinch technique, but in this case, you're going through each chapter in advance to note any pictures, charts, or graphs. Good idea. By having a quick look at these, you're priming your mind with something to look forward to, and you're giving your mind clues about what the information of the chart might be like. Now let's talk about number 9, timeless Pomodoro. One thing I've never understood is this particular technique. Now, if you're not familiar with the term, it's a form of time boxing where you set a timer and intend to focus on reading in a specific period of time. It's very simple. That's all you do. Get a timer. If you want to read for 40 minutes, put it in there. Number 10, read out of order. This is what I do. That's why I had a hard time in school. One of the easiest ways to lose focus while reading is to insist on moving from the beginning to the ends of the book, except for novels. You don't want to know who the killer was before time. When reading non-fiction books, it's often helpful to read the conclusion first. That way you get a summary of the key points why the author thinks the thesis of the book was valuable and correct. And number 11 is a mission statement for motivation. Often we do lose focus because we forget why we're reading in the first place. Number 12, give yourself a reward. Never grind without some kind of reward in mind. It's just simple psychology. Could be watching a movie, going to a favorite restaurant, vegging out for an afternoon, getting an item you've been wanting. Usually mine's more books, but there you go. This has been such a good article. I hope it's helped you with your focus. I know it has helped me with mine. It's nice to know because when I'm reading a book, especially if it's a self-help or a technique book where I'm trying to learn how to do something in a particular way, I like to go to the index. I like to check it out and see how it turned out. I like to look at pictures. Then I like to read the book. So I wasn't too far off. It'll just make conversation much more interesting. And if you're going to make a report for it, it's just going to make a lot more sense. My name is Donna. Thank you so much for watching The Edge on IC Radio, your source for news and entertainment. You can find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications, and Abundance Television, which is found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Again, thank you so much for watching.